Stand for the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Clerk, take the roll.
O'Connor.
Here.
Morissette.
Here.
Here.
McCormick absent.
No.
Weber.
Here.
Hoggett.
Here.
Hall.
Here.
All right. First thing we have is comments and suggestions from citizens present. Anybody you'd like to speak? Yes, sir. Come on forward, please. Identify yourself and your address.
Good evening. My name is Tony Bowl. I'm a resident. I'm at 724th Street. It's an honor to be addressing the City Council. I appreciate your service and your time. We are here as a group, and let's see a show of hands of folks who are caring about an inclusion resolution for the City of Hudson. We are here to talk about an inclusion resolution as an idea that's coming up for you in the years to come as you come up with your comprehensive plan to consider something that's inclusive of cultures and communities. We're here in inspiration in a variety of ways. The origin of this came about when there was an issue with a high school girl who was harassed for wearing a hijab. There was the Syrian refugees, which had some loud critics that were rather hateful in their messaging. We even had 7 LGBT flags that were torn down and desecrated along the way. These are things that you and I know is not the Hudson we're neighbors with or our good friends. We know some pretty great people in Hudson, and we want to make sure that our inclusion resolution gives voice to that particular group and how they care for folks. One of the other reasons is we are, one of the solutions that happened is an inspiration of this group. I don't want to just act like there was an inclusion resolution. There's several things that happened. A group of people who put together something called an all is welcome wagon, so they're inviting cultural groups. That's taken place already since these incidents. There is the rainbow flag activities which took place, and there was 7 desecrated, and then there were 70 put up by neighbors trying to make sure people know this was a safe community for LGBT. And then my daughter, Yasha, actually organized 30 students to come down from the high school and write messages of welcome on the sidewalk with a sidewalk slam. So these are the kinds of activities taking place. Catherine Olson started a GSA, which is a gay-straight alliance for high schools, and she's doing this along the St. Croix Valley so people can know that that's happening. Why a resolution? What does it do? Well, first of all, legally, it is most discrimination is prohibited, and it is in federal law and many state laws about discrimination, and so this is in the spirit of that law to help embrace it and go beyond the law and do a better job. It is also good for business. Being known as a welcoming community is very important, and in fact, Hudson has been in the Twin Cities news with criticism. I think it made the news for certainly the Syrian refugees and for the rainbow flag desecration and other matters, giving a reputation of being less than welcoming. You know, we do the Pledge of Allegiance. We just did that together. Why did we do that? It says in there, justice for all. Why do we say those words? It is by taking and making a particular proclamation that we care together, that we have shared values, that these are the things that we center on as we move together and exchange and work together. So the pledge is not an empty word project. It is something that is built. The framework of the what we're trying to create for the inclusion plan is actually, or the inclusion resolution, is to have an impact on your comprehensive plan or strategic plan, whatever you call it. As the comprehensive plan is starting to be developed, we would hope that you would take the inclusion resolution and do some things where you are considering how it is you're supporting the citizens of Hudson. We ask you to establish this inclusion resolution for the City of Hudson and hope you will give it its full consideration. At the end of the conversations here, my daughter, Yasha, will read the resolution we are discussing. Thank you.
Thanks, Tony.
Chris Cost, 385 Meadow Valley Trail, Hudson, also the Executive Director of the YMCA.
My perspective on this is that the YMCA for 173 years has been an organization supporting all. The last two words of our mission is for all. When we look at diversity, if I talk to individuals in the community, is Hudson diverse? They will probably say no. But honestly, when you look at it, Hudson's very diverse. If we look at our age, our education levels, social economic, sexual orientation, disabilities, if we look at a wide range of who we are a very diverse population. So when I look at diversity, I also look at inclusion. Inclusion, if you think about it, is diversity is, use this analogy, inviting people to a party. Inclusion is making sure they're all engaged and having fun. Perspective of the Y is that we want to make sure that people are having fun. We want to make sure that individuals in the community come in and they want to buy our products, they want to go to our restaurants, they want to use the Y, they want to use all the things that we have to offer here in Hudson. And so for our perspective from the Y is that across the United States, we are looking at how we can be more not just diverse, but more inclusive. And that's where we stand with this as well. Thank you.
Chris.
Good evening. I'm Elizabeth Brooke, a resident of Hudson, 1901 Twilight Lane. I'm also a business owner. Appreciate the opportunity to speak briefly with you. You may think I'm wandering, but I really have a point. If you think about the fact that Hudson is well recognized as being a tree city, and we're all very proud of that. And part of that tree city, some of the criteria really apply to what I'm going to speak about really short tonight. As a tree city, we want to make sure our trees are healthy and cared for. We want to make sure that we have a lot of diversity in our trees. If you look around, you'll see all the new trees being planted, and we're excited about that and how it represents our community to people coming and to people living here, that we have a healthy environment. Our air is healthier because of these trees. Well, if you think about it and translate some to that, to being an inclusive community, the same things can transfer as we value diversity of humans and what they bring to our community and their importance to our businesses. And as people wanting to live in Hudson, what kind of message do we want to give? I ask your serious consideration of this resolution. I know we all care so much about this community. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is John Ramstad. I live at 1542 Summer Street. My wife and I moved to Hudson about a year ago when my wife became the pastor at the local Methodist church. Our personal experiences, we found Hudson to be quite welcoming to us and my wife and her new ministry, and we're very pleased to be part of this new community. Over the last several months with the issues around some of the extreme reaction to the potential of Syrian refugees coming to this community, and with the desecration of the rainbow flags, kind of caught me and worries me about that we're not quite as welcoming as we may think we are. Being a welcoming community isn't a passive thing. It is how we react when we feel out of our comfort zone. When new people don't look like us, don't pray with us, maybe don't love like us. It's how we react when our neighbors turn this discomfort into hate. I hope you will join me in supporting this initiative because I want to live in a community that not only believes, but has proven that it is welcoming and accepting, not only when it was easy, but when it was hard.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Yasha Bowl. I live at 720 4th Street here in downtown Hudson, and I am a rising junior at Hudson High School. So I will now read the proposed resolution as it is written so that you guys can hear and understand it. Whereas the City of Hudson is proud to protect the civil rights and liberties of all its residents and to partner with community leaders to create equal opportunities and a safe city for all. And whereas the City of Hudson recognizes that an inclusive city is more affluent because it mobilizes and enables a wider spectrum of people and talents instead of marginalizing its residents, and is more socially just because it offers better access to pathways for social, cultural, and economic betterment. And whereas the City of Hudson affirms its commitment to be an inclusive city, to respect the civil rights of its residents, and to be explicitly welcoming to all residents, regardless of age, race, ethnicity, country of origin, sexual orientation, gender identity, ability, religious preference, income, or political affiliation. And whereas the City of Hudson strives to be inclusive in our city government through equitable employment opportunities, including, but not limited to, hiring practices, recruitment, and appointment of diverse members to serve on advisory boards and commissions, and in our communication policies. Therefore, be it resolved that this resolution shall take effect immediately upon adoption, and be it further resolved that we reaffirm Hudson's commitment to inclusion as a fundamental aspect of our community. We pledge to honor the rights, freedoms, and interests of all members of our community, without regard to age, race, ethnicity, country of origin, sexual orientation, gender identity, ability, religious preference, income, or political affiliation. We further pledge active efforts to achieve the goal of inclusion, and we urge all community members of Hudson to join together to support this effort. And be it further resolved that the City of Hudson shall include this resolution as part of its future strategic plan, and shall encourage all other units of government to join the city in welcoming, encouraging, and supporting all members of our community. And be it finally resolved that the City of Hudson, Wisconsin, declares itself to be an inclusive city. Thank you so much for your time, and I really hope that you give this just consideration.
Thanks, Yasha. All right, thank you. Anybody else? Any other comments? Any other comments? Any other comments? Close this portion of the agenda, move on. Discussion and possible action on consent agenda items.
To approve the regular session meeting minutes of July 3rd, 2017. To approve claims in the amount of $377,350.27. To approve, let's see, contingent on payment of any outstanding debt owed to the city, and successful completion of the background check. To approve the issuance of 11 regular operator licenses that are on file in the city clerk's office for the period of 7/18/17 to 6/30/19. To approve the issuance of 4 temporary operator licenses to Kelly Stitcher, Chelsea Long, Nicole Pedersen, Lana Schoberg for the Phipps Visual Arts Council event on August 3rd, 2017. To approve the issuance of 2 temporary operator licenses to Andrea Jorgensen and Blake Fry for the Spirit of the St. Croix event on September 23rd and September 24th, 2017. To approve the issuance of 10 temporary operator licenses to Danielle Hallberg, Brian Hallberg, John Washburn, Matthew Bishop, Mark Rasmussen, Eric Jensen, David Hebeson, Devin O'Brien, William Jenkins, and David Ellenwood for the Backcountry Brew Fest on July 29th, 2017. To approve the amusement device owner's license to Twin States Music, Inc. and the 50 games contingent on payment of any outstanding debt owed to the city and to completion of a background check. To approve the Spirit of the St. Croix Art Festival special event permit application and the picnic license application to the Hudson Area Chamber of Commerce for their event on September 23rd and 24th, 2017, and to place on file the Public Utility Commission meeting minutes of June 13th, 2017.
Move for approval.
Second.
Got a motion, second to approve. Roll call.
Oh, wait a minute, there's a small error in the meeting minutes. It was called to order at 7 PM, not 6 PM.
Thank you.
I move to approve with correction.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, I'm just trying to think of that.
Well, we started at 6 o'clock at the previous meeting.
Yes.
And
And that's,
that got carried through.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
so Morset,
Yes.
Holmes,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Hoggett,
Yes.
Hall.
Yes.
Okay. Motion's approved. Nothing under unfinished business, new business, discussion of possible action on consideration of resolution 14-17. Excuse me, approving the project plan and establishing the boundaries for, wow, and the creation of tax incremental district number 5, City of Hudson, Wisconsin. Mike? Sean?
Thank you, Mayor. I've got a handout coming around to serve as a summary of the project plan that the mayor just alluded to. I believe the council received in your packet for today's meeting a project plan that was for the creation of tax increment district number 5. And for this agenda item, what I'd like to do is go through the material in this summary of that project plan and hopefully answer any questions that the council might have. A couple items here for those of you who have been able to attend either the Finance Committee meeting regarding tax increment, as well as the Plan Commission public hearing about the creation of District Number 5 will be a little bit repetitive, so I'll try to move through that material, but want to make sure I hit all the high points for the council in this discussion. If we can go forward a couple of pages to page number 3 about how TIF works. As I'd mentioned, I think many at the table up here have heard this discussion before at the other meetings, but I would like to reemphasize it. When a city creates a tax increment district, we first choose a geographic area within the city that we're going to designate as such, as a tax increment district. And we, at that point, also calculate what is the current taxable value of that property that is proposed to be put into the district. That is considered the base value of the tax increment district. And the base value historically has always been taxed, and revenue has gone to all the taxing jurisdictions in the past. When that base value is set, that will continue into the future. So if the current value or the base value is $5 million, that $5 million in value will continue to be taxed, and the county, school district, city, and tech college will all get their pro rata share. But when the district is created, any new value on that property that you put into the boundaries of the tax increment district that comes from inflation, or more likely from new construction or development and redevelopment, that gets categorized as increment value. Increment value is taxed at the exact same rate as any other value in the city, including the base value. But increment value, the tax revenue on increment value, all flows to a separate special fund of the city. In this case, it would be the Tax Increment District Number 5 fund. And it's available, that fund and the revenues that are in that fund are available to do projects that are promoting the development or redevelopment of the boundary that we put in the tax increment district in the first place. And this process continues until the shorter of all the expenditures have been paid back, or in the case of the district we're going to talk about today, we've reached the maximum life, and the district that we're talking about today, the maximum life is a 27-year period. Okay. So before I move on for that, is there any questions from the council on how the revenue, when you talk about tax increment financing, how the revenue side of it works? Okay, great. If we go forward to page 4, when I talked about the ability to use the revenue in the tax increment district to pay for projects to promote development or redevelopment within the boundaries of the tax increment district, what you see on page 4 are the types of expenditures under the state statute, in the tax increment financing statute, that are categorized as eligible expenses that you can use those revenues for. So just on a couple of them, public works and improvements, infrastructure type improvements, land assembly costs, relocation costs, cash grants or development incentives. And finally, I'd highlight 2 projects that are within the boundaries of the district, or there is the eligibility for projects that are outside the boundaries, but within a half mile of the boundaries. So though, under the statute, these are all different types of project costs that the city can use tax increment revenue to pay for. Okay, if we go to page 5, from here on out, we'll be talking specifically about the proposed tax increment district number 5. And on page 5, there is a map of the proposed tax increment district. And for everyone in the audience as well as TV, primarily what we're talking about is the old dog track site. That's really what it is along Carmichael. And the purpose of the district is to redevelop that site through a combination of public improvements and incentives. Long-term goal is to take that site and the tax base that it currently provides, which is about $5.5 million in tax base, and increase that tax base, and in doing so, also increase employment opportunities in the city. The district itself, there are a couple different types of tax increment districts. This district qualifies as a blight elimination district, taking the existing site and redoing it or redeveloping it into a far better long-term use for the city. And what you see on the right side of the page is the list of expenditures that we're anticipating to get to that goal of redeveloping the St. Croix Meadows Dog Track site. And those include some infrastructure improvements, as well as some incentive in order for the development to move forward and to incentivize the new businesses locating within the tax increment district. As well, and finally, there are some improvements along Carmichael, both within, right next to and adjoining the tax increment district boundaries and within a half mile. So all of those project expenses are included in that project plan that was a part of the council packet. If we go over to page 6, this is still evolving, and I know that on your agenda tonight, I think you've got some other discussions about this topic. But what we put in the project plan was a preliminary layout of the site, taking it from the vacant dog track to a site that you see here, which is a combination of corporate and some business, a hotel potentially, redoing the existing building as a brewery, a baseball field for a baseball team, a minor league baseball team, and various housing units as well on that site, all proposed to redevelop it from the existing dog track. Now, in terms of what that brings in potential new development to the city, and it would again be first development that's captured in the tax increment district, but in the long term, after all expenditures or the max life of the district is reached, then the valuation would return and now become part of the tax base of the city, the school district, the tech college, and the county. What you see on page 7 is phasing of the redevelopment of the site with new valuation from the stadium, redoing the existing building, corporate users constructing buildings on the site, some hotel retail, condo and senior housing, all listed as potential redevelopment on the site, creating new value. These projections anticipate approximately $150 million in valuation upon full development of the site. Now, that development that's listed on page 7, if you go over to page 8, page 8 is a cash flow forecast for tax increment district number 5. On the left side of the page is the projected revenue that would be captured in the tax increment district and be available to pay for eligible tax increment expenses. And you'll see it early on in the life of the district as the development is occurring. There's not a lot of revenue there until we get that new tax base up and above the $5.5 million in value that's there and is not collected in the tax increment district. But over time, if we achieve the total development of about $150 million in value, The annual revenue for the district would be about 2.6 million. And then as you move from the revenue side, which is in green on this page, into the blue section, the blue section is detailing potential financings or debt issues in order to pay for either the incentives or the infrastructure improvements in order to get this development site to go from, again, the 5.5 million up to 1.5 million, or 150 million, excuse me. And they really fall into two different categories. There is an expectation of some city-backed debt that is financed for infrastructure improvements. And the biggest one, though, the 17 million, and then also a potential of 3 million later, are forecasts for what we call a pay-as-you-go obligation. And a pay-as-you-go obligation is an obligation in which the city commits to use tax increment revenue to pay back tax increment eligible expenses, but those expenses, instead of being incurred by the city up front, and you having to pay for those expenses up front, the party that you negotiate the agreement with incurs those expenses up front, and then to the extent that the revenue in the tax increment district is generated as planned, you as a city council would agree to take that new revenue and pay them back. So what we envision as the finance plan for this district is primarily the use of that pay-as-you-go approach, which I personally like, is a little bit less risk to the city when you're only committing the dollars that the district itself actually generates, versus the other approach where if you issue debt and it's backed by the full faith and the credit of the city has to pay that back regardless of the success of the tax increment district. So the finance plan overall calls for use of both of those tools, but the biggest use would be that pay-as-you-go tool. And that also will be part of a development agreement that I know you took action on getting that process rolling at your first meeting in July. Preliminarily in this forecast, and I know it's a little small on the page, the district could go out to 2045, but with the projections at this point, all costs are paid back in 2038 under the plan. So hopefully this sort of a situation will come to fruition in the future, but I wanted the council to know as we've looked at the revenues and expenses at this point, that is the forecast that 2038 date. Okay, lastly, on page 9, I wanted to take the council through the process, this evening's action that would be required to continue the process, and then what would be needed moving forward. Previously in June, we had 2 meetings on June 20th. We had an initial meeting of what's called the Joint Review Board, and that's a board made up of all the taxing jurisdictions who have an active role in creating this tax increment district as partners with the city in doing so. So we had that meeting, and then we also had the Plan Commission public hearing where the public was able to provide input on the proposed tax increment district to the Plan Commission. The Plan Commission also that evening approved a resolution moving forward the boundaries and the project plan to the council. Tonight, after your deliberation about the creation of District Number 5, you also have a resolution on your agenda that you can act on. And if the council does act on that in the affirmative, we will have a final meeting of that joint review board on Thursday. And that board made again of the county, school district, tech college, and the county, and the city, and an at-large 5th member. They will also have a vote on the creation of the district at that time. So with that, I know I dumped a lot on you again. I think some of this you may have heard before, some of it might be new, but if there's any questions that I can be helpful with, I'm sure Mike and the development group has representatives here too. They would be very happy, I'm sure, to answer those questions of the council as well.
Thanks, Sean. Any questions? Anybody? Jim?
On page 5 of the plan, it states public investment of approximately blank is required to enable the development to occur as we so desire. Why is that blank, and what number should be in there? When will that number be filled in?
Yeah, you've probably, I think you've got an older version. The process we're going through, the request from the development group at this is 17 million. That's the request that they have for the incentive to do the project on a pay-as-you-go basis. As part of the development agreement, we are finalizing an analysis looking at the sources and uses of the development group to determine if that is going to be the final number or if it's going to be a different number than that. The copy of the plan that I think I sent out on Friday and the version that I've got a copy of here doesn't specifically address the number, but that was the requested number, is that 17 million at this point. And through the development agreement, there'll be a finalization of what that requested amount and final potential approved amount for the council will be. But that will come back to you for your final decision.
Anybody else? Questions?
I'm going to move to suspend the rules.
I'll second.
Motion to suspend with a second roll call.
Morissette.
Yes.
Holmes.
Yes.
Weber.
Yes.
Hoggett.
Yes.
Hall.
Yes.
Motion's approved, rules are suspended.
And I'll move to adopt resolution 14-17.
Second.
Got a motion, a second, discussion? All those in favor?
Hang on.
Aye.
Opposed? Oh, I'm sorry, what?
I guess, what is that committing us to? You know, if the plan is a document we're supposed to be reviewing and has a blank for the dollar figure, I wouldn't vote for it. I don't, so I'm asking specifically, what are we voting, what does this allow to happen?
He said 17 million.
Yeah, that's not what's in front of me here.
Maybe I can clarify on one point. I've got the other copy, and I apologize if this is a different format, but the bigger point on the project plan itself is, the project plan is the framework to use tax increment financing for the purposes that we talked about, redeveloping the site. The projects, either the development incentive or any of the infrastructure projects, by the city council approving the tax increment district plan, you are in no way approving the city expenditures of those dollars. Those projects all have to come back to the council on an individual basis. And in the case of the development incentive and the potential 17 million, that will be finalized as part of a development agreement and will come back to the council for approval. So we have to put expected expenditures in the plan to make them tax increment eligible, but the approval of the plan does not approve the projects. You have to go through a separate approval process for those to actually commit the city's dollars at that point.
Okay. So this is what we're voting on, not what we have in front of us?
The project plan itself, I think we might have had, there was only a few changes in the section that you're talking about on page 5.
Yeah.
There is a different verbiage in there that does not state a specific amount, but states what I was just describing to you about the process of the going through the development agreement and coming to a final conclusion on the review of those sources and uses of the developer's revenues and expenses on the project.
So, don't get me wrong, I'm totally in support of this project. I think it's great. But this feels a little loosey-goosey to me, that we have this document that we've gone 45 pages that some of us have been able to go through and others have fallen asleep. But, and now, that's not what we're voting on?
Well, you should have, there was another version that was emailed after this was uploaded. So,
Yeah, you did send
That's-
that. Was that yesterday or no, Friday?
Did
Yeah,
I miss that?
that was late. So, I mean, that was later in the afternoon.
it was in the
Maybe not-
afternoon on Friday, correct. The one, I think, the original one is probably the draft version, the one you're referencing was the draft version at the public hearing, which had some changes, small changes to it after the responses and the questions of the
Okay,
public.
I see it now. It's not the one that was included with our agenda, though.
Came out afterwards,
Yep.
Yeah, it was
Came out
sent
after.
after, yep, correct.
so it didn't get loaded into the,
Into the packet.
So what was that, is that reference taken out?
There's no reference to a specific number. In the plan though itself, as I talked about, that 17 million is in there as a potential expense, but it doesn't reference in that page 5 the specific amount. It doesn't have a blank in there like it did at the version you had previously, correct?
You good?
I'm good.
Okay. Anybody else? Anybody? Okay, so we have a motion, a second. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council.
Discussion and possible action on minor changes to Final Master Development Plan 255-16, Concept Development Plan 255-85 for the St. Croix Meadows redevelopment site, 2200 Carmichael Road, Clint Kloss for Hudson Gateway LLC.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. My name is Rob Keene with WSB and Associates, representing Hudson Gateway LLC. We have 2 items before you this evening. Both of them are amendments to plans that you've seen repeatedly. We would just like to make sure that everybody understands that the changes that we are proposing, both in the overall final development plan as well as the concept plan and final plan for phase 1, were in 2 parts. One, to accommodate some of the proposed development that we were looking at and working with clients that are interested in developing within the project itself, and as well as addressing some issues that have come up on the part of the city in terms of accommodating utilities. So in the case of moving some property lines was something that we looked at. We did change some alignment and parking. We have moved utilities as a result of some changes to the main building, what will be the brewery. Those are trunk lines that we worked with the city on, and those are going to be relocated utilities that are going to take the place of the ones that are there now. The changes that we've proposed, we've worked closely with the planning department, city staff, and making sure that we have brought forward changes that are not going to be fundamentally changing the overall plan, but rather accommodating some of the development that we anticipate within the project itself as we work with individual groups and potential partners as we move forward. At this point, much of what I'm discussing is going to address both of these items. I'm happy to answer any questions at this point. And if there are anything specifically for item B and then in the future for item C as well.
Okay. Anybody? Mike, you're getting up. Did you have something to add?
I just want to point out that because of the scale of this project and the size and the importance of it, technically this is something that I might have been able to do administratively, but I think it's important to the community that this gets thoroughly vetted, by both the Plan Commission and the council. When they first indicated that they had some changes coming, obviously the first question was, well, how significant were those changes? I think if you lined them both up next to each other, you probably couldn't tell the difference at first glance. But it also afforded staff an opportunity to make sure that all of our recommendations pertaining to where the trunk sewer lines were going to be located, as well as some of the traffic improvements that we were recommending be taken on as part of the first phase of this project. Thankfully, now we have an actual site plan and a plan that shows all of those improvements. So just wanted to clarify that a little bit, that I think it is important that we got another crack at this through the process. So,
Thanks, Mike. Anybody else? Questions?
I'll move we approve the final master development plan based on the Plan Commission and staff recommendation.
Second.
Got a motion, second to approve. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Discussion and possible action on a final master development plan / conditional use permit, Phase 1, Chapter 255-16 at St. Croix Meadows redevelopment site, 2200 Carmichael Road, Clint Kloss for Hudson Gateway LLC.
a continuation of the last item. We had made it through the public hearing process at Plan Commission, I believe, in early June, the first meeting in June. And after that was when we learned about the potential changes that were coming. I asked the applicant that we withhold consideration for approval of the CUP at council so that we were able to see how significant or insignificant those changes were and whether or not we'd have to go through that process again. Now that these changes have been deemed very minor in nature, this would be the next step in that Phase 1 CUP approval.
Questions?
Do we have to suspend the rules on this, or we can just, no? I move to approve.
Okay.
Second.
Jim, was that a second?
Second.
Got a motion second to approve. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Thank you, Mike. Discussion and possible action on award of construction contract 2017 street maintenance. Tom?
Yes, thank you. Bids for the 2017 street maintenance project were opened last Thursday on the 13th. We had one bidder, Farner Asphalt. Base bid was in the amount of $95,948.40. And we had some alternate bids, which were 7 other locations around the city for $41,905. And again, this is crack filling and flex patching along with some seal coating in numerous areas. Project funding source is both the 2017-2018 capital fund as well as the 2017 water utility budget. The water utility's got about $25,000 in there, as some of these locations are water utility driveways and parking areas. So with that, the staff would recommend awarding the total adjusted base bid to Farner Asphalt in the amount of $137,853.40.
Questions?
No. I'm going to move to approve.
Second.
Got a motion second to approve. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Discussion and possible action on award of construction contract 2017 storm sewer repairs.
Yes, this item, similar to the previous, would be consideration on a construction contract award for the storm sewer repairs. We opened again, the bids were open Thursday. We had 3 bidders, Zappa Brothers, Albrightson Excavating, and A1 Excavating. The base bid, as you can see, $125,458. $135,014 for Albrightson, $147,189 was the third bid. We did bid that with an alternate, and you can see the adjusted base bid has the additive between the base bid and the alternate. However, the funding source that we plan on using likely is not large enough to accommodate the alternate. Project financing is about $146,000, and that is coming from the 2017 Stormwater Fund. So with that, staff recommends awarding the base bid to Zappa Brothers in the amount of $125,458 even.
So moved.
Got a motion?
Second.
Motion second to approve. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Discussion and possible action on letter of engagement for engineering services with SEH Walnut Street Bridge repairs.
Thank you. This item basically is a continuation of a project that's been in front of you a few times. The Walnut Street Bridge has had a few bridge inspections and reports that have come up with some corrective issues that are recommended. We have previously, the city applied for some grant assistance, and we were successful in obtaining 2 grants from the Wisconsin DNR. So the next process would be to approve a letter of engagement with the engineering services and begin final design. What we're anticipating is 2017 to be the design period and construction to be completed next year in 2018. When we started talking about this letter of engagement, we also started talking about when this bridge repairs would occur and how it would occur relative to closing the bridge down. We were a little bit surprised, but the estimates from our consultant The original estimates did not include a total bridge closure. So they are, what they indicate to us is that if you have to keep one lane open, and basically it's only a two-lane situation now, that the construction cost could be as much as 30% more. With that, that's somewhere in the $80,000 range as far as an additional cost on the construction to keep that bridge open. We sat down with the police department and Public Works and the consultant and talked a little bit as far as when we would do this project and potentially shutting it down or not shutting it down. Again, we looked at the busy months, obviously the summer months out there with all the activities on the beach, the excursion boat, the sailboats. So to try to close that down during the heavy use months of the summer, there was a concern for EMS services getting out to the end of the dike road. So with that, we went to, well, can we build it late fall or early spring, which is substantially less use. And where we kind of landed was that it's potentially a good project to try in the early spring if you are going to go with a total closure. And the goal there would be to try to do the majority of the work in April and May before the real heavy season kicks in as far as summer use goes. So with that, we put together some the project costs. As you can see there, basically the first one listed there was the original budget that we've been talking about for probably a year or so, and you can see it starts out with the construction, engineering and permitting, construction testing, and then a contingency and our indirect costs. So we have been talking about an estimated project cost of about $450,000 for a year or so. With that, we obtained that first regional trails grant of $45,000. So if you can, the estimated net city cost we were looking at was just over $400,000. The next two columns, we've shown two estimates, and it's basically an estimate of the project if you close the bridge down for the repairs, or one where you keep it partially open. And as you can see, engineering did go up a little bit from our estimate here about a year and a half ago or so. So if you look at revised budget with a total closure, again, and then if the council so chooses that, we would try to hit those that April timeframe, April, May for the total closure. And you can see with the contingencies and indirect costs, we're at an estimated total project cost of about $456,300. Again, what I've listed there is both the Regional Trails Grant and the Urban Rivers Grant, and you can see the net cost that's estimated at this point to the city is about $273,150. And again, the revised budget, if we have to maintain traffic relative to EMS service on the bridge during construction, you can see there's where that construction cost goes up about 25–30%, which gives you a total estimated project of about $537,000 less the grants. Then you're at about a net city cost of $353,950. So again, that's kind of some of the discussions we've again had with Public Works and the police relative to closure, not closure, and then time of year if we were going to do it with a total closure. As far as the funding source, again, obviously the grant monies definitely help out, and it was basically funded in our 2017-2018 capital project fund. So the items before you tonight would be approval of a letter of engagement for SEH, and that estimated fee is $73,800, and it's listed there as broken down into design, hourly not to exceed, permitting, which is hourly estimated, and construction and testing, which is hourly estimated. So there's the breakdown of their proposed fee. And with that, it would be an authorization of to proceed with preparation of plans and specifications. And then I guess the third issue is if the council wants any further discussion on whether we do this under a total closure which would most likely be the months, like I said, the early part of the spring. Or if not, we would have that larger dollar amount that's, again, estimated at about 30% more on the construction number to do it under traffic.
Any guesses on late spring and high water? Will that affect?
There is one item that would be affected by high water, but as we look at it, and if you, the mayor asked about our other project here, the river's been, it's kind of an unknown commodity. We've had high water for 2 years, as far as I know, specifically last winter as well. And I think today is probably as low as it's been in 2 years. But the bridge work underneath on the piers would not be able to happen on high water situation, but no matter what we pick in this, that scenario might happen anyway. So they might have to come back on a mobilization to do that if the river's too high to do the piers. The rest of the work is above out of the water, so it won't impact it.
Has Afton Cruise Lines been, has this been discussed with them?
No, I guess what we've done is that we did, there's an agreement with Afton about what happens if there is some repairs to the bridge. The city has to give them a space somewhere else on the wall. It's not real specific. I guess what we felt is sitting where we are now, July of 2017, we have a lot of time to do those negotiations with the cruise lines, and whatever the city decides to do with the sailboat, again, based on this decision, there'd have to be some information potentially different than what happens usually with the sailboat individuals. I don't think there's a lot of activity in these months we're talking about if we do shut the bridge down for construction in the early part of the spring, but.
Seems that their season starts in May, I believe, but mid-May.
Well, another thing is we would hope for maybe an unusually warm March. You can always hope for that. And some years we get it. And, so we would definitely, the intent would be to try to bid this thing early, and by early I mean maybe mid-January, get the contract squared away, and so that when it even comes the end of February, March, that if there's a window, because some of that demolition and upfront work can occur in maybe some weather that's not too warm. But the consultant was worried about a late fall project if you started and we're into September, October, or sometimes the end of October. And the fact our concrete work, he was a little bit hesitant because at the end of the year due to worried about the cold kind of thing. So
Tough call.
I guess the first question is, you know, if we go forward, do we want to do a total closure?
Yeah, it is.
And
Would the project get done faster, a full closure?
well, typically you'd say yes, for sure. They're estimating about a 2-month construction period. So
Yeah, and if it doesn't get done
I was
May, then we're into June and July, right?
well, yeah, that's something that there's obviously no guarantee that we don't have some extremely high water, but again, the extreme high water should only deal with the one of the repairs we're doing underneath. But, you know, there's no guarantees in life. We would shoot for trying to start in March with some of the demo work, and hopefully by the time get into the end of April, where it starts getting a little warmer, and then do the concrete work.
I know Brandon's not here, but Marty, do you know what the run volume would be out there at that time period? Any emergency calls out to the deck, end of the dike during that time frame, spring?
Very few, if, I can't even think of any that we've had in April, end of May probably, more when the sun comes out. When we sat down and discussed this, that was my main concern. What is the least amount of time that people are gonna be down there? I'm more concerned, if we shut the whole bridge down, nobody can walk down there. That'll take care of that problem. It's the boats that'll go down to the end of the dike. If we have a problem down there, we're not gonna be able to do anything about it except get in our boat, go down around and take care of it. So if we can do it during April and May, when it's the least amount of traffic, the least amount of boat traffic that's going on, I think that's gonna work out much better than the original plan, I think, was to do it middle of August. Well, that's a busy time of the river, and to shut down that whole bridge, that would not be acceptable.
But you'd be semi-okay with it?
Oh, yeah,
full
I think,
closure
I
in
think
the spring?
April and May would be the best time to do it, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
That would be my preference. I guess full closure within the springtime to get it done faster.
It's 80 grand, yeah, it's a lot of money.
So I'll move that. I'll move that.
Move the proposal with full closure.
Yeah.
I'll second that.
Okay, I got a motion second for approval with full closure. Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Thanks, Tom.
Thank you.
You want a motion on the
Well, the-
engagement letter?
Well, if that motion included the approval of the letter of engagement and authorization of plans and
Separate,
specs.
we can do another
Just-
motion.
Yeah, do it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll move to
Yeah, we
approve the
should.
letter of engagement for.
Okay, got a motion
Second.
and
And authorize preparation of plans.
everybody
and
seconded
And
it.
authorized preparation of plans and specifications.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay, got a motion and a second for approval, letter of engagement. Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Discussion possible action on consolidation of Hudson and North Hudson utilities. Kip,
Good evening.
good evening.
An ad hoc committee has been established to review the possibility of consolidation of Hudson Utilities and North Hudson Utilities. City of Hudson provides water and sanitary sewer services to its own residents and those of the village of North Hudson. Hudson and North Hudson each own different parts of the water and sewer systems. The unclear and outdated intermunicipal agreements governing water and sewer services have caused confusion over regulatory, maintenance, and funding responsibilities. The complexity of the existing situation complicates decision-making for emergency repairs, daily maintenance, and makes administration of activities difficult. Hudson and North Hudson are considering the option of combining, with Hudson becoming the sole provider of services, water and wastewater for both communities. North Hudson would transfer its infrastructure to Hudson, which would then provide services to both communities and become solely responsible for funding, infrastructure, maintenance, and replacement, and for regulatory compliance. Hudson and North Hudson ad hoc committees have agreed that consolidation of the two utilities is best for all parties involved and will continue to negotiate on transfer of assets and creating a new agreement between the two municipalities for future services. Final approval will need utility commission and city council approval. So what we're asking for tonight, because of the next item where we're going to be talking about hiring an attorney, we are looking for approval from the city council. The ad hoc committee and our members are looking for approval from the city council that we do want to move forward on this. We don't want to go spend a bunch of money and then it kind of just gets dropped by the wayside. So we're just looking for approval to move forward on the consolidation through the ad hoc committee.
Who established the ad hoc committee and who's on it?
Joyce is on it, Dave Preisel's on it. Those are the two representatives for the city. And Dave Preisel's the chairman of the utility commission. And then there's two members of the village board or whatever they're, I can't remember who they both are.
Brian Pike, and I can't remember the
No,
other.
not Brian Pike.
Oh, no. No, you're right. I'm sorry.
I can't remember now.
I can't remember.
Jim Zeiss
Yes.
is one, and I can't remember the other one's name. I think he owns the village.
At some point, there's going to be some kind of cost associated with it.
Well, the cost associated with it would be your second item that we're going to be dealing with is to do this, we need to hire an attorney to have the agreements done, things of that nature. We need an attorney that knows inside, the Public Service Commission rules and laws, the DNR rules and laws, so we can get these agreements up and done. So we would be hiring the attorney, the city of Hudson would be hiring the attorney to represent the city of Hudson in these negotiations.
So is North Hudson expecting some assets to be bought by the city utility?
We've made it clear that we're not interested in purchasing anything. Now, I can't guarantee that they're not gonna ask, that's up to them, I guess. But we've made it clear that we're not interested in purchasing anything.
Who pays for maintenance costs up there then?
That's part of the problem. We don't know. It just depends on what it is. I mean, we send guys up to North Hudson all the time to, help with maintenance issues. We jet their sewers with our equipment and our staff. Water issues, are up there if they have a main break. A lot of times we're on that also, to help them out. Things of that nature. It's the agreements that we're rewriting or trying to make better are from like 1979, 1983. It's just financially, it's a nightmare on how do we bill them, what do we bill them for, how much do we bill them for, things like that. And myself, the ad hoc committee just feel it's really, it's in our, we do most of the stuff up there anyway. We own all the water towers, we own the wells, we own the meters, we're in the homes changing out the meters, we're doing the cross-connection inspections, we're doing the private well inspections, we do all this stuff up there already, but it's very unclear, are we supposed to be doing it? We don't know.
What do they currently budget for maintenance?
We're still looking into all that. The deal has to be right for the city of Hudson too.
Right.
And the ad hoc is very well aware of that, and our two representatives are very well aware of that. We're not interested in taking this on and losing money or spending a whole bunch of money up there, that North Hudson's currently
Are we
not.
billing them too? So we do all the billing out of the?
We do all the billing out of City Hall, correct.
The main issue is that we don't own the water pipes.
Yeah, the city of Hudson does not own the infrastructure for the water or the infrastructure for the sewer. But we do own, like I said, the towers, the wells, all the meters in the homes we own, things of that nature. Plus, we're responsible for all the sampling and almost everything regulatory we're responsible for, even in the village of North Hudson. So it's just clearing up a bunch of who's responsible for what.
With this agreement, is it your intent that we would own the water lines and sewer lines?
I guess that's what the ad hoc is trying to figure out.
Yeah, because there could be
We haven't,
significant dollars associated with that.
We've had one meeting. The one meeting, it went very well. I think it was well received on both, the cities and the villages, representatives and things like that. But that's all the kind of stuff that we need to figure out yet. We haven't dove into any of this, and that's what the attorney is for. They're the ones that are going to help us really dive into this and figure out, because we don't know where to go. We obviously have to have Public Service Commission approval if something like this happens. We're going to need DNR approval. We're obviously going to need approval from City Council, from village boards, things of that. But yeah, Ken.
Do you have any idea of the condition of the infrastructure at this point?
That stuff, the water system, I believe is fine. It's no different than our water system here, pretty close to the same age and things like that. One of the things that we did talk about is we would do an assessment of that. We want to know what the lift stations, the sanitary lift stations are like, what condition are they in, is there work that needs to be done to them, is there upgrades that need to be done, are the pumps, do they have a year left or do they have 10 years left, type stuff. So all that would have to be done. And then, obviously then we need to make a decision after that and figure out if we actually want the system or not.
Okay.
Sounds like we're adding a lot more to our plate.
Well, the problem is that these agreements are incredibly old. Our liability
I get
is
that,
already,
John.
we're way out there on.
I get that, and that needs to be done, but what else is gonna get set and kicked over to us to take care of?
Well,
You know
we
what I
are-
mean? 'Cause
we are
it
adding-
does cost more for us then, and our city
Well, that's what
tax-
we're hoping not. We don't know the numbers yet. I mean, we know what North Hudson generates in revenue based off of the water and sewer bills. That we do know. But what are their maintenance costs and stuff, that we haven't got that far into this yet.
But the goal is to make it neutral as far as expecting.
Well, I guess next time we should
Hudson.
see those numbers before you're asking us to,
Well, and you will. All I'm asking for today is, we don't want to continue down this road The ad hoc committee has decided that consolidation was the best. It was either consolidation or rewrite these agreements. And then if we rewrite the agreements, we're still going to have the same issues that we had. So ad hoc figures that it's the best to do a consolidation. So all we're looking for today from the council is just a vote to say, we're in favor of ad hoc moving down the road of consolidation. Now, obviously, and then the second issue is going to be, the next issue is hiring the attorney to help us out to get an agreement in place. Now, once that agreement comes in place, it's obviously coming back to you guys for review, for tweaking, for things of that nature. So, yeah, this is by no means a done deal.
Is it your hope with the, sorry.
Go ahead.
Is it your hope with the consolidation that we would not have to, when pipes need to be replaced, pumps need to be replaced, that would not be our expenditure as a city? Is that what your hope
If the
is?
consolidation happens, it would be our expenditure. Correct.
But it would be offset.
It's the utility, you guys. We have a utility that manages our water and sewer, and that's all funded by people who use it. So the revenues cover that.
We know that.
The weird part is that they're right now, if there's a pipe out there that needs to be fixed, they may not necessarily fix it because it's owned by North Hudson. So it puts us at kind of a risk, actually.
Well,
The revenues that are generated from North Hudson residents that go back to North Hudson residents would, if the consolidation would happen, would then stay with the utility.
I would, I understand in our conversation, Skip, that we've got, we're kind of in a bind. The contracts make it very vague as to legal liability because we're technically responsible for what happens up there, even though we don't own the lines. And in order to figure it all out, if something were to happen, we'd end up in court and it would cost us a lot of money anyway. I presume I said that right.
Yeah, yeah.
Obviously there are a lot of issues around this right now as far as costs and things like that. I really would like to know and I know that you're going to provide us with this information, but I'd like to know what they're budgeting for that up there, because obviously that is a cost that's going to be a savings to them. The only thing that they have to do is contractually turn over ownership to us, and then theoretically, the way it sounds, and not only are we responsible for the maintenance but we're responsible for paying for it as well. And now all of a sudden, a budget burden has been shifted once again from them to us. So I don't know that, and perhaps this is just semantics, but I get what you're asking for. I don't know that I want to give approval to move down the road for consolidation as much as I would like to give approval for investigating the issues that are involved in moving down the road for consolidation.
And I think that's kind of what we're asking for, right, Joyce? I mean, we're just looking, again, we don't want to, the attorney costs that you're gonna look at next is anywhere between $15,000 to $25,000. So we don't want to kind of go get an attorney, start moving all the way down this road. And obviously, it could come, we could get all the way to the end of this thing, and it's not a good deal for us. And at that point, then we have to go back and rewrite agreements or whatever we have to do at that point, and it's going to cost us money to do that too. But we do need to go down this road to try to figure out, and the costs are definitely an issue. And like I said, I'm not looking to do this if it's not beneficial to the city of Hudson. And there is more things than just costs that in my department or in my eyes are beneficial. Today, like I said, it's a nightmare to try to deal with some of this stuff, on how we're.
So this should simplify things, but I think the main point here is that the Village of North Hudson wants some assurance that, yes, the council has looked at this and that we're agreed that this is the right path for us to start down, and also the commission needs that as well.
Okay, so you're saying that North Hudson is asking us to do this?
Yes, that was.
Or the ad hoc committee is?
Well.
The ad hoc committee.
The ad hoc committee.
Because last I heard,
Well, it came out of North Hudson. They had their meeting, but it came out of North Hudson that they didn't take any action on anything. They were waiting for the ad hoc committee and the utility commission and the city council to kind of take the lead on saying, yes, we want to pursue the consolidation road.
okay.
It seems to me we need an accountant rather than a lawyer.
Well,
There are legal issues involved here.
yeah, there is, and, you know, like I said, we've done very prelim work looking at, you know, what do we turn back over to the Village of North Hudson and things like that, but we haven't dove a whole lot into this yet until we kind of get more direction from you guys.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't pay to spend a whole ton of time on this if we're not going to go down this road. You'll obviously see numbers. You're obviously going to see that, and the Public Service Commission is going to want to see numbers. You know, they're definitely going to want to see how everything kind of ties together. That's for sure.
So really what we're talking about is moving forward with an agreement or recommendations, and then we're not actually going to approve it today, obviously. But that's what it says here. Recommend approval to move forward with the consolidation. But we're not actually really voting on the approval. We're just talking about moving forward.
If you're interested in making a motion, you can word it however you want it.
Maybe you should talk about getting more information on the financial aspect before you
Well-
make a commitment towards
But I think that's,
consolidation.
I think that's kind of what we're talking about, is just approval to continue to investigate.
Yes.
The overall ramifications, legal, fiscal.
Yes.
On down the line. So, yeah, I agree. I don't, I think it's worded poorly as far as, I
Well,
think
it's
it's
sort of
misunderstood.
it's very final.
Yeah.
It's like, ooh, yeah, we're not ready to do that.
Right.
So, sure, I'll move to recommend that we continue further investigation of the consolidation between Hudson North Hudson Utilities.
I'll second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. That sounded like it came from Jen. I said, what? All right. We got a motion and a second. Further discussion?
Can you put, no, we want to see more financial information in there.
Like financial ramifications and legal ramifications
Yeah.
of consolidation.
To include financial and legal ramifications, per Randy.
Got it.
Whatever, I want to see that.
Yeah, no, me too. Yeah, absolutely. That totally makes sense.
Okay. Further discussion? Everybody good?
Well, just to clarify that, right now, currently, North Hudson keeps the money, utility money for the billing for the pipes that they're,
Right.
so, yeah, this would be a major shift, for sure.
It would simplify so much with the accounting that is done. It would save a lot of time, of Brenda's time, and there would be other advantages of it. There'd be some things that would be a little bit more difficult for Kip, but most of it would be simplified too.
Okay. Are we good? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. And then, discussion and possible action on discussion possible action on hiring of an attorney for utility consolidation with the Village of North Hudson Utilities.
Legal services are needed for the purpose of the consolidation of the Hudson Utilities with the Village of North Hudson Utilities. Legal would prepare rough and final drafts of the asset purchase, sale, transfer agreement, water and wastewater service agreements, contact regulatory agencies, the DNR and the PSC for reviews and approvals. It's coming to you because this was not a budgeted item, so I will need a budget adjustment and then you've got the funding source on your sheet. So I'm looking for an approval for a budget adjustment and to retain the services of Lori J. Kobsa from the law firm of Boardman and Clark with an estimated cost range of $15,000 to $25,000. And the Public Utility Commission did authorize at our meeting on Friday the hiring of Lori.
Okay.
So there was 3 that we had entertained offers from, and they went with her.
That may take an actual budget amendment, which would need to be published and so forth, so we don't have that in writing today. I think Devin usually prepares a budget amendment when an amendment's actually required. I'm just alerting you to that we may have to come back with a written budget amendment.
All right, so when you say come back, are you saying that we can vote on this now, but we may have to make an adjustment to this vote?
Well, that you'd have to go through a procedure of approving it and then publishing it.
What's the cutoff number on that? Is there a cutoff number on that?
No, I don't think so.
Because we don't publish every budget adjustment that we
Well,
make.
if it's a budget,
We shouldn't have been.
if it's, I don't know what you're talking about, but if it's a actual amendment to
Well,
what
no,
was
we're
published as the
we're just making a
budget.
budget adjustment. I mean, we're just taking from funds that we have money in and moving it to
Oh,
here.
okay. Well, all I'm saying is if it needs to come back with something like that, I think you can approve it tonight, but if some other step needs to be taken, it would need to be taken.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, maybe Brenda can answer that. She knows way more than me.
I can take a look. Hopefully there's enough money in the utility funds to just do the budget adjustment. If it's a budget amendment, we'll bring it back.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Do we hear a motion?
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kip. Discussion possible action on recommendation to purchase a boat for the fire department. Scott?
Honorable Mayor, common council members, we talked about this pretty in depth at the Finance Committee. I believe everyone was here. We're just talking about purchasing a boat for the fire department that has capabilities of suppression with a water pump on it and also rescue. And I guess I'm willing to entertain any questions in the essence of time. If I believe I've been heard at the Finance Committee.
Yeah, I'll move to approve the purchase of the boat.
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Scott. Discussion of possible action on recommendation to send to Public Works the painting of parking spaces.
We're supposed to send it to you guys. Did you have that item talked?
We were unable to meet in June. We were meeting in July, so we have not discussed it, and I'm sorry about that.
I will move that we send it to Public Works.
Okay, got a motion
Because
and a
you don't
second.
have any money, do we have to find the money for it? Is that what you're
Well,
saying?
we need to identify and will be your crew.
I see, okay. No, that's cool.
Tom's crew, not
Just
yours.
making sure.
But yes.
Motion and second to send over to Public Works. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Communications from the mayor, discussion and possible action on mayor's appointments to the Hudson Housing Authority and the Hudson Urban Forestry Board.
That for you.
Pardon me?
Want me to read this?
Yeah, would you?
There's a vacancy on the Hudson Housing Authority as Sally, I don't know how to say her last name, chose not to serve another term. There's a vacancy on the Urban Forestry Board due to the resignation of Tim Schaefer. Based on the recommendation of the authority chairperson, I request approval of the appointment of Amy Grusky, 721 Lund Street North, to serve a 5-year term on the Hudson Housing Authority through April of 2022. Also to appoint Tim Hall, 1105 Maple Drive, to fill out the unexpired term of Tim Schaefer with the appointment ending in April of 2018.
And we're going to split that, two different motions. Joyce wants to.
I have to recuse myself from Tim
Okay.
Hall.
Move to approve the Hudson Housing Authority appointment.
I'll second.
Okay. Got a motion and second to approve. Questions? Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved.
Move to approve the appointment to the Urban Forestry Board.
Okay.
Second.
Got a motion second for approval. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. You know what, for future items, I don't have anything. Anybody? Kathy? Jen? Anybody? Okay, entertain a motion?
I just have one announcement. I'd like to recognize the passing of one of our 25-year-old veteran, Charles Smith, who's retired from our fire department. and our EMS. He worked 25 years here, passed on, so I'd like to recognize him and thank him and his family for his service.
Okay, thank you for that, Randy. Appreciate it.
Isn't it Charles?
That's probably his son.
Oh, Craig, sorry.
Yeah, Charlie's current.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, well, thank you. Thanks for the correction. Anybody else? Entertain them?
I would like to suggest that we discuss this proposed resolution about the inclusivity.
On
At
a
our next
future
meeting.
agenda.
Yeah, at our next meeting,
At the next meeting, okay,
or sometime soon.
okay. All right,
I saw the changes in the upfront presentation of citizens being able to speak on items on the budget, but perhaps we could announce that at that change at the next meeting?
Oh, sure.
Just to
Sure.
say, hey, we made the switch.
Like that? Okay. Sounds good, thank you. Anybody else? Entertain a motion?
To adjourn.
Second.
Got a motion, second to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Stand adjourned. Thank you, everybody.